welcome everybody who just joined, and obviously welcome to the rest who was already in the waiting room. Glad to have you here. My name is Marco Hochstrasser. I'm the host today, and I will try to drive this into a very exciting and refreshing discussion with my amazing experts. I'm very proud to have such an amazing expert group here in the room today. So we have from Kardex, from Carvolution, and from Feldschlösschen, the experts talking about budgeting and how the budget will look like. So I'm very excited, and obviously also very cool to have so much interest into this webinar. And with no further ado, I would like to start a short introduction round, and where every expert shortly introduces himself and basically tells you what he does or she does, and also obviously then jumping into the budget discussion. So with that, I would directly start with Leah from Carvolution. Leah, maybe you want to introduce yourself very quickly, and also obviously thank you for stage here with all of us.
Sure. Hello, everybody. Thank you, Marco, for the nice introduction. My name is Leah. I'm one of the co-founders of Carvolution. We started back in 2018, so now it's already a couple of years. And I'm in charge of the marketing team. So, of course, I also need to present a proper budget. But I'm sure it's different from the others because we don't look back to years and years of data. Carvolution, I hope most of you have heard about it already in some kind of way. But anyway, if you need a car, I would be really happy to get in touch with you guys after you know already how I do my budget. So maybe you're interested also in how Carvolution exactly works.
Perfect. Thanks a lot. Then you might need to adjust your budget, right? When everybody now goes to Carvolution, buys a car. So thanks a lot, Leah. Thanks for being here. And next, I would ask Hanspeter to give a short introduction about Kardex and what he does there.
Sure. Thank you, Marco. My name is Hanspeter Schiele. I am leading the digital and online marketing team within the Marcom department at the Cardex Holding AG. Digital and online means that we're owning the whole application landscape on one end, but also operatively execute the marketing operations through the whole application landscape. Kardex is a company situated in the intralogistics sector, so which means we are a global industry partner of automated storage solutions, manufacturing handling solutions, literally everything which is being used in large warehouses where goods need to be stored, found again, retrieved again, assembled, delivered. That's where our products are being used, and you can imagine the coverage in regards of industry partners is spanning all across any manufacturing industry segments. So it's quite an interesting business.
Perfect.
Thanks for that.
Sure.
Introduction. And with that, I will go to our last and most thirsty guest probably in the room, which is Jurgen, or better say what we take after the webinar, right? Welcome, Jurgen.
Yeah, hi Marco. Thank you, and hello all together. My name is Jurgen, and I'm since almost 30 years in the Feldschlösschen brewery. Yes, Feldschlösschen is a brewery. We are the market leader in Switzerland. It's not only beer, we sell the whole beverage range, wine and water and so on. Myself, I was coming in with an economic background. I've spent most of my time in the IT area with SAP and in business process development. I had also the chance to participate in international projects because you have to know Feldschlösschen is a part of the Carlsberg Group in Denmark. I was in UK project, Poland, and also Denmark, of course. And when the digital transformation has started, focus on digital. And here, not at least because of Corona, I got last year the chance to back to a local role, to business development manager in the digital area. And this is the role I have today. And this is a project which I have, one of my projects, to analyze the marketing budget for a B2C web shop. We have a relative new B2C web shop. And so I'm not a marketing specialist, not marketing budget specialist. I'm coming from a different corner with new eyes and analyze with sometimes mysterious marketing budget process.
Thanks a lot, Jurgen. And that's all why we are here, right? To shed some light in this mysterious secret world of marketing budget planning. And you also see the cases we have here at hand. It looks like everybody does something completely different, but that's actually also what is interesting when it comes to budgeting, right? On one side, we have Carvolution being, let's say, B2C focused mainly. And then we have Kardex being, let's say, very B2B focused. And then we always have Feldschlösschen, which basically plays in both fields with different aspects, and also being a food and beverage brand. So that's kind of the idea, to coverage the whole budget area of marketing with these experts at hand. So thanks a lot, guys, for the introduction. And with that, I would jump into our discussion. And first, obviously, all about budgeting, right? Marketing budget 2022. It's around the corner. A lot of people are talking about it. That's obviously also why this webinar got so much traction, because everybody has it on the agenda in the next couple of weeks, probably, or should have, or realize that they should have, either way. And probably the first question is like, how do you do it? I mean, obviously you cannot reveal numbers. We understand that, right? Your competitors might be on the call, but still it's actually interesting how you do it. Does the process look like for getting your budget 2022? Maybe let's start with Leah. How do you do that?
Well, I think at the end of the day, a budget starts like many other things. First, you need to have like your mise en place. Do you have all the information you need? Do you know your financial resources? Do you have an understanding of your goals? Do you have an understanding of your historic data? I mean, you don't need 30 years of data, but at least like you understand how your funnel worked, what channel impacted which one, and only if you really have all those things at hand, I think then it makes sense to say, okay, let's start to do the budget. Otherwise, you will start and be like, oh, I need to go back to finance, and this wasn't actually the budget I was supposed to do, and you start the whole process again. For me, it's also really important to speak to our project team to understand, hey, what other things are happening next year that would have an impact on how I see the funnel and how I should allocate budgets. How is it with supply, the car sourcing? Is there any seasonalities? What do I think will happen regarding COVID, regarding mobility? Is there new cars? Is there any trend that I should expect? And then when I have all this information, I try to understand, okay, what can I repeat? What would I like to repeat and keep the same way? And where was there like a mistake or a learning which I should consider with the next budget? And then, of course, also planning for unforeseen things. I think even more with a startup, there's only such a thing as an educated guess when it comes to budgeting. And there you should stay flexible. And at the end of the day, I think it's really important that everybody understands the marketing budget, that everybody in the management is aligned, so that it doesn't feel random for them. Because sometimes you're going to miss your budget, and then it's not the end of the world. But you need to be able to come up with an answer why, or was it actually at the end even planned to miss the budget? Was it an accident, or can you at least learn something from it? I think that's important when it comes to budgeting.
Okay, but on the process side, so you go to your customers, like you look at trends, you look at what happens, right? But how does the process look like? You just go to the CEO or you meet with the founding team and you say, okay, we just take the last year factor 10 and we add some trends. Or like, how does this process look like at Carvolution?
Well, the marketing budget kind of is a result of our business case, of our business plan, of course. And this is why we took the key figures out. And this is then kind of the starting point to say, okay, this is the financial resources. Then, of course, there's also HR, which comes into place. It's not a typical channel, but still there's a budget. You need to deal with it. You need to understand where to put it. And then, of course, also sit together with the people from the different channels to understand, hey, did we have at one point too much, too little to get the best out of your field? And it's a lot of people sitting together, crunching the numbers, going back, rediscussing, trying to understand how each thing impacts the other.
Okay, yeah, that's cool. And I mean that's now let's say a smaller company, right? A very agile approach, I feel. What about you, Jurgen, on the more, let's say, the B2C/B2B side, right? With probably a little bit more stakeholders.
Yeah, of course. It's important to mention that we have these two kinds, huh? And the first one is the traditional one, our B2B budget, and because our business customers with our restaurants, with our wholesalers, and this is retail, we have not delivered directly to consumers. So in that area, we have the traditional brand management. That means we have our brands. First of all, you need to be clear in the company which brand is the strategic brand, or which brands. You have more than one strategic brand. When the brand director really sitting down and is planning which activities he will do next year. Is it TV? Is it radio? And of course, the biggest area is social media. And this must be clear when you can calculate your budget. And when it's from us, it's really a bottom-up approach. That the brand manager is making a proposal, is going to the Feldschlösschen management, and also here a back and forward, of course, discuss what makes sense or not. And finally, we need to have also the approval from Kardex, from the central. And of course, the management, the brand management is not focused on a sell and turnover, because we have B2B. So it's more from the brands for frequency and reach and awareness. And on the other hand, what I mentioned to you, since 5 years ago, it was also a strategic decision that Feldschlösschen needs to deal with consumers. So we have created a consumer web shop called Just Drink. It was a hard start, of course, with a web shop. You need to grow up. This is the opposite. This is really a top-down approach for that strategic area. The top management says, hey, guys, this is your amount of money. You have that money to make your web shop big and to reach your turnover targets in next year. So it's for the B2C responsible people. They are really responsible to handle with that money that they have. So it's both ways, top down and bottom up.
Mm-hmm. Yeah, so this top down is probably a little bit closer to what you do, Leah, right, with your team-ish, right? Obviously reiterate, but you basically do the liquidity planning, run away, and then you kind of define top down. Okay, that's the cash we have at hand, and now let's make it smart, right? Something like that.
Well, it's difficult to say bottom up, top down, because when everything is very close at one level, it's a sales target, it's resources.
Yes.
But yes, of course, there's resources, but there's also very clear goals, and there's not much to discuss about those. And it's what we have to get them, and this is what we deal with at the end.
Then let's move to the B2B side of the house. Hanspeter, how does your process looks like?
Well, actually, the processes are not so different. Actually, there is always a top-down aspect and a bottom-up aspect in the end when you are defining the details of your budget. But of course, as Leo stated correctly, also for us, it's imperative to understand the corporate targets for the next fiscal year for the budgeting period. And what we are doing, we are actually translating that. We're giving ballpark figures very early, actually this month already. Some are already being inherited, but it's really ballpark figures, just like a really rough assessment that the top level management can start to make decisions in regards of the revenue targets for the next coming fiscal period. And then this is inherited to the businesses, which we actually serve. Well, sales, we need to deliver to sales. So from sales, we are getting back then the revenue targets, which they need to achieve in the first instance in the next fiscal period. And we work very conceptually with a funnel structure along the whole value chain. So we're calculating then these upwards. I mean, Leah, we would dream of having historic data at the top funnel levels. We don't have yet because we just shortly changed our went to a full digitalization of our marketing approaches, which were not this way rolled out before. We have a very solid knowledge in the sales funnel, but not in the marcom funnel. So there we are just calculating all that up to define the benchmarks on each funnel stage required to achieve then the revenue target, or help to achieve the revenue target at the bottom of the funnel. And what we don't do is actually then we go to the granularity. I inherit this then to the channel managers for an assessment, because then we know which channels need to perform on which level. And they come then back with first their recommended strategy and the set of tactical measures which we need to execute, including an assessment of the costs for that. Mostly far too much, so we need to cut that back a little bit again. But like this, I can consolidate in the end a D&O budget. This is being inherited to the corporate Marcom function, consolidated there, and then back upwards again to consolidate the detailed annual budget of the company.
So this process sounds rather lengthy. So when do you start it for when did you start it for 2022? I probably should say, right? Or are you ready?
I did already, and it is lengthy. I can confirm. Yeah.
So you don't have the budget yet, but you will have it soon, or you're in the process of having it end of December.
Ballpark figures are already they're not yet being sent, but will be sent eventually next week already. Yeah. That's then the positive aspect of not being able to rely on historic data and making leaps in regards of adjusting your strategy. It will stay within similar ballpark ranges, but the details we're going to elaborate in September.
Mm-hmm. Yes. Yeah. Okay. Well, that's interesting. And I mean, you mentioned that you cannot take data because you don't have really a lot of digital data right now, and I guess you not plan to have a e-commerce shop very soon where you can buy an Amazon logistics center at Kardex online. That's probably not going to happen very soon, right?
I did not say that. That's moving very fast, I can tell.
Okay. And when we talk about data, how is it on the other side? Lea, do you use data today for your budget, or do you more look into future and like the runaway discussion we had before? Or what data do you use?
Yeah, of course, we look into our data. I mean, when it comes to traffic, what sources, where does it seem like, where do you have competitive pricing, where do you have on a channel also seasonalities, which you want to then consider in your planning. But even if you have data, a lot of advertisement, you're never going to find any data on it unless you start doing research, because most people that saw your advertisement don't react to it, but still you reach those people and it was worth the investment for your brand. So I think there for us, it's really important that we have a very clear definition between our branding budget, where also like it would be a bit a dream to then really have a nice funnel to say, okay, we have this branding, but at least we try to reflect on how it has an impact on our performance channels. Like, will our conversions improve through a raised brand awareness, and so on and so on. And of course, the non-paid channels should show growth, which then later, not the same weeks, not the same days, you can't measure really that click coming from awareness, but it should reflect on an overall company growth. So, but yeah, we also look on data from clients, what clients have the best customer lifetime value, how old are they, what cars do they take, how did they come to us, trying to really put our focus where it's most valuable for the company and where we can contribute most to the overall goal.
Mm-hmm. Yeah, makes total sense. And, mention an interesting topic, brand versus performance, right? I look to you, Jurgen, which is probably a very interesting topic on your side, right? Because one side does only brand or almost only brand. The other one is probably a mixture of both. So you basically have both things in the ballpark, right?
Yeah. Look, the question was how do you use data? And
exactly. Yes.
That's correct. We have of course data, a lot of data, but the risk is when you have data, the risk is you make a paste and copy from the budget process. This is the worst thing you can do. Can tell you. So you need to do a balance. Of course, you need to use the data from the past, and yeah, the question is what is marketing data? You have first one, you have the costs and the activities which you have done in the past, in the last year and 2 years ago, but you need also to have a cost benefit analysis. What was really useful, and therefore we are comparing also the sales data. What you said, Hanspeter, how the sales data are also a kind of marketing data. And for us in our business, it's really important to clean up your sales data, because when people are only buy the beer when it's in promotion period, it's not a good thing. So you need to really find the balance again. And this is what we try to do. So have a look back to the data we have, but most of the focus is really start from a zero-based budget and say, hey, what will be our initiatives, and let us plan it. And of course, you have historical data from the costs and so on. But the view forward must be the more important one, of course.
Mm-hmm. And that's a very, very good point which you made. Never copy paste your budget. So, I mean, we are a small company. I always copy paste my budget and then adjust it. So it's a very good learning from me. Hanspeter, did you ever copy paste your budget?
I actually did, so you mentioned the lengthy process which we have already, and definitely will. I mean, it's also a question based on what kind of experience you're developing further stages of your budget, and we just managed to compose that highly complex budget in regards of the digital marketing last year for the first time. Of course, I will not kick everything into the can now and start from scratch all over again. But definitely I need to, Jurgen is right. This is especially in times like right now when we have such high volatilities. We cannot compare this year already to last year, and nobody knows how next year will look like. What I will do this year, of course, definitely is to include certain flexibility in regards of the usage of the budget. What we have seen now is that we our two main paid tactical channels. On one end, by learning, we saw that we did not get from one what we actually were expecting or aspirating to get, while on the other one, we detected additional potential. And since we had their siloed budget positions, it makes it very difficult now to argue to move money from one into the other one, especially because also regional and local businesses are connected with that and need to report return on investment based on this. That's definitely things which some learnings need to come from to avoid that in the future, to keep the flexibility. I think the flexibility in regards of unforeseen market situations can be provided in the way that the budget structure in the end is not too granular. That you can condense a few things. But on the other hand, what I have also seen, and there I need to contradict a little bit, in regards of just relying then on the historic learnings, is our top level management is asking how the runtime performance is looking at. Our approach is really very much towards a performance marketing approach, and therefore we need to be able to adjust very quickly to the runtime performance data. And we have nothing else to rely on. That's why we also can do that without a lot of thoughts behind. Just go for it for a try.
Yeah, makes total sense.
Yeah.
I think I was software engineer, so copy paste still be my first approach. But what about you, Lea? Did you ever copy paste?
Actually not, but I mean, that's for me rather simple to say. I'm not doing a budget for the years or anything, so I still enjoy doing them, and I think, okay, next one, it's going to look nicer, I'm going to improve it here and there. So I think I'm still in a learning curve where I see like, okay, it needs to change still a bit fundamentally. But I mean, at the end, it's a budget, right? It's it's numbers which are split, which should make sense, which should have some thinking behind, but still I do them from scratch.
Okay, perfect. So I need to go in a training with you and Jurgen probably, and or maybe Hanspeter. We should join both. I'll do it from scratch all time again. So very cool.
Yeah.
Now we all hear about we talk about next year budget, right? And obviously it lays on the hand that predictive analytics and all these AI tools can help us. Did you ever use something like that so far for telling you what will work next year, like long horizon predictions, apart from trends? Did you ever consider something like that, or did you already use it, or does your data science department use it? Some of you, I don't know, Jurgen, do you have anything action, something like that?
Yeah, I can give you an open and honest answer. The answer is no. we have not such a tool, and we do not really simulations or predictive analytics. What we have what was the extra? The English word is extrapolations. Which is the most thing, and of course estimates, and this is what we are doing. But it's not a tool, and it's really it's the first time that we try and come back to our B2C business, to the web shops. Here we are really trying to use Nexoya and implement Nexoya for that, and that let us see. It's.
Obviously, I more meant methodology rather than the tooling, but more like that you look into the far future, which Nexoya doesn't do, right? But like the methodology of looking into 2022 and using simulations, right? What about you, Hanspeter? Do you use any, or did that in the past, or do you look into
I also did
predictive?
Yeah, I also did that in the past, but now actually we're using Nexoya as a data manipulation layer, fetching data from our CRM, from the marketing database, from all channel levels towards it to create, and you guys helped us to build a very nice funnel where we can also see the runtime performance against the benchmarked forecasted performance, which it's not yet. I don't think it's yet 100% working because it's not enough data yet collected, not a long enough runtime. And Leah mentioned the seasonality before. This is definitely, we have no clue how the seasonality will look like at the moment. But definitely we want to see this prediction be becoming refined, then over the years also being more and more precise. This gives us also then the flexibility to play with different scenarios while benchmarking the target performance ahead of a fiscal period, for example. What we try to already use also on the Nexoya platform is the correlation. So for now, we should still try to understand what are the mechanisms working across the different channel landscape. How do the channels influence each other, which they do, actually. And it's always important to look at the whole landscape, not only at a siloed channel, but also to observe certain impacts downstream in the funnel, so-called funnel velocity, which we're also looking at in the Nexoya dashboards. And there we have already found some very interesting findings. I would not say we understand them in detail yet, but the first step is always to get aware of it, to see, hey, there is happening something which we might not have expected, a correlation between two KPIs or a funnel velocity effect which becomes visible in that funnel only when you see this only when you have a holistic view on everything. Yeah.
Yes, that makes sense. I obviously didn't want to push the tool here. For me, it was more like talking about predictive analytics approach, but thanks guys for mentioning. Yes, so I mean, that gives you a sense of how it's going, right? Now, Leah, in your case, that's probably not possible, right? Because I don't know how fast you grow, but I assume you grow reasonably fast. So it's very hard to do any predictive, probably.
And it's less about the predictions, right? We decide to grow, so we grow. But of course, we need to have a very deep understanding of our channels. But instead of going to different calculations or everything, we play like extreme scenarios with channels. So we triple the budget, we turn a channel off, and like this, I mean, it costs some money, but the learnings and the know-how you get it very fast. And I think that's at this moment a real luxury we have to get this deep understanding. We also do most of the things in-house. So it's like this, you can then try to build this predictions kind of by knowing, okay, I understand how this channel will affect others if we double, if we triple, if we reduce. And this is kind of the way we try to see how we can push growth the fastest and the most efficient way.
Cool. That's a very interesting aspects, right? So you triple the budget on one side for a week and then you learn. So it's kind of A/B test on steroids, but without A/B test, just real world.
Maybe a little bit longer than just a week to
okay.
algorithms sometimes, yeah. But yeah, if you want to summarize it like this, more or less.
Good. Cool. Yeah, that brings me to the point, right? The budget 2020. I mean, we now talked about the process, we talked about the data, we talked about predictive, but 2022 is around the horizon. A lot of people in the call are probably also all the people which ask me if the recording is available, which are now watching this. I had a lot of inner questions and a lot of thought about their budget next year. That's why it's so vibrant topic. And kind of what is your secret? What is your success secret that you say, hey, this is a perfect budget next year? Like how do you get there? What is the secret sauce? Jurgen, I don't take Feldschlösschen beer as a secret sauce. This doesn't count.
What I said before, I'm not in charge to create a budget, yes. But of course I had some talks before with our managers, and what I learned is but what we try to do is a balance if the budget, and this is first of all make a balance in a focus on long-term activities. To have awareness and to have the value of the brand, of course, and on the other hand, focus also on short-term activities. Really looking to performance and turnover, which is always a question of the balance. And what we are really doing at the moment is thinking: is for next year, is one budget enough, or do you need to have two variants, perhaps? Because of Corona, it's really unsure what will happen. So perhaps you have a normal case and the worst case, or you have perhaps three: best case, a normal case, and a worst case. Which is what we're discussing at the moment, and it's an interesting discussion because. It's exactly what you see, the predictive thinking, what will come, but it's a really interesting to talk about that. And but for me, when you say what is the procedure here, for me the budget planning, this must be a stable and a transparent process, the planning part, but the operations at the end next year, it must be flexible. So it's a really big difference between planning and operations.
Yes. Yes, so that's a very interesting aspect. So you basically say, okay, we create a worst case, whatever horror scenario, which we end up like 2 years ago, right? Okay. Where suddenly we stop everything, and then we have normal case and we have the growth case where everybody's happy, everybody's fully and COVID is going into bars and things like that, right? And then you basically, the scenarios that you would switch between these modes potentially. This is the idea which you guys have.
Exactly.
That's
the meaning is let us think already today about different variants and when we think it's easier to shift the budget. Between the variants.
Yeah, that's very interesting. And Hanspeter, what's your secret? I mean, you only have the growth case probably, right? Because logistics during COVID last
Still,
1.5 years.
it's going well, I can say. But what Jurgen mentioned is, I think, absolutely decisive. I mean, it was not necessary eventually, well calculable, also on the midterm to long term, how the markets develop, how the customers behave, etc. But the variants, I think the variants are less like an optimal, ideal, and worst state, but more like different strategic approaches, adjusting to certain circumstances which might apply in the markets depending on whatever happens next here. And I think this is definitely something moving forward, which every planner, not only with budget even, needs to take into consideration. Besides this flexibility, I think my secret, the mistakes from the past years were that my budget was too granular, for example. I might simplify it again to win flexibility in regards of handling the budget during the runtime of the fiscal year. But also, in our case, whenever possible, of course, I think like for you guys, Leo, where you still establish business processes, learnings, how does a sales cycle completely work? Maybe you know it already, but I think the lineup of business processes with the marketing approaches is giving a very clear picture for marketing budgets. Let's say giving a very clear picture for what and how you tactically going to use the money which you get. And that's, for me, the fundament of every successful Marcom budget. That's the essential.
That's a very good input. I can second on the granularity. We obviously have also a lot of customer contacts, and we see, especially in the upcoming periods, they are more like putting everything in a pot, because they know that on one side, obviously, each channel has its velocity, right? They perform good or bad. The competitor might be very aggressive or not aggressive, like tripling the budget or something. And then you need to go away very fast or stay. And so they more and more do this less granular allocation, which then they can move more agile through the year. So we see that more and more. So just
exactly,
I see
especially when you follow a performance marketing approach where you really tactically need to make very fast decisions at some point, or correct drifts which are just going off, as we have also seen. This isn't sometimes not even predictable in regards of channel typical behavior. It is also influenced by all these surrounding factors. Then you need to be able to react, and if you then first need to go and get your approvals internally to move money from one end to the other, mostly you're too late.
Opportunity is gone. Yes,
exactly.
And cool. What about you? Yeah, what's your secret sauce?
I'm not sure if I have like a real secret, but what is very important for me personally is to a budget, you always have to get it approved somewhere. The only hand in a budget I believe in really will bring us to success somehow. Like, I think there's no way to make it work if you hand in a budget somewhere where you don't feel comfortable with. So rather have the discussions before your budget than after or during the year.
Yes, that's very good. So I have a lot of notes here. I try to summarize it at the end, but it's a lot of very good quotes. I would pick you on that. I think even copyrightable ones. I really like the don't copy paste. That's my favorite so far. So now we heard a little bit about your secrets, and we also see that the time is running. To all the participants now, and also all the people who will listen to the recording, we now talked a lot about the planning process, right? And Jurgen already mentioned there is also the operational aspects of the campaign or the process and the budgeting during the year. Like, can you give any practical advice to the audience here? Like, how do you handle the ongoing year, right? Now you have a budget, you have whatever, 100K, or there's always not enough budget, sure, but we have a couple of millions, I don't know. Right? And then how do you do that? How do you have any practical advice on the audience here, like how to handle this best? Also, how to handle these situations which might occur, like unplannable situations. How would you have any advice for the people here? I don't know, Jurgen, maybe?
Of course, I can start with this. Look, it's a horrible year this year for everybody, you know, and especially in our business. But the restaurants were closed for half a year. That means a big part of our turnover was simply not existing. And so we're not speaking from a little bit shifting. We were speaking how can we shift that missing turnover from a restaurant part to the retailer part, and it's not possible. But when it comes to the marketing activities, of course we had in the past, it was always some discussions where you have small shifts when one brand was not performing like foreseen, and so when you need to shift to another brand, it was easy compared to what has happened now. And it was really the procedure was a little bit what is the estimate of the volume, what we can sell, and based on that you have reduced the budget, and okay, reducing is always one thing, but not always the best one. So you need to shift it, and but always in the having the view, what volume can we do? What's our turnover? So this was really always the view. What is the expectation? And also here, this was the basic for these three variants we plan for next year. We also do now these three variants and calculating worst case, best case, and normal case. So it's, we learned a lot this year how to shift budget, but it's not a planned process. It's really it was from 1 week to another process.
So basically your advice is just buckle the helmet and run through it, right? If it happens, kind of.
Yeah, it is.
Yes. We just have a side note. There's a question, are we going to have a chance for questions? Yes, there will be a Q&A session in 1-2 minutes starting. So you feel free to already put your questions in the chat window on the right-hand side. You have a Q&A where you can put your questions and then we pick them up. And with that, let's finish the question we had before, like practical advice on how to do operations during the year. Hanspeter, looks like you had a smoother year probably than Jurgen, right? A little bit.
I think we had. Nevertheless, we were having the same challenges. We were not prepared with a flexible budget, with a variable budget. Let's call it that way. But Kardex were moving forward very fast, so doors are opening very quickly. As long as we can define the business case properly, we of course get the support, but also therefore it is very handy that we work so conceptually with our funnel all along the value chain, because like this we can for any kind of request we can calculate a potential return on how accurate it is. Leah, you're right. You know, sometimes these figures are just pulled from the sky and might not really reflect the reality, which then afterwards really happens. But with our approach, I have also done these funnels in my previous work life, so it is quite well fine-tuned. We're getting close to what we then in the end also achieve, and based on that trust on one end, which the leadership can have in these calculations, we also get the doors opened for measures, the countermeasures to be taken. But definitely it would be much more better also, and also better for the whole business to plan when a flexible budget is being communicated, you know, a variant A, B, and C, eventually depending on the key expected inflicting aspects, which might change the game during the next coming fiscal year.
Cool, thanks a lot. And last point, Leah, any practical advice for the audience, how you handle the year or during the year?
Difficult to say, but actually, like Hanspeter, we work with those funnels, which are usually more clear than the questions on what channel are we spending the money. So the nice thing about being a rather small team, it doesn't take much time to say, hey, should we switch from here to here? I see an opportunity there. And I also think this is a great asset of rather young companies, smaller companies, because just the decision time goes fast. However, if you dedicate budget to a person, you should stick to it. I think it's very unfair if you start removing budget from somebody which are not prepared for that. Of course, if it's needed, it's needed. But I think you should trust your people. And if you commit to give them a budget, you should kind of walk the talk. And so at least some things are fixed, others should stay flexible.
Cool, thanks a lot. Yeah, that's fits to my short summary, which I will give. So first, to the audience, feel free to ask questions. Q&A mode is enabled, so you can ask questions there, then we pick them up with the audience. You can also target directly one person if you want to know something. Obviously, the people cannot disclose too much. I mean, you can try, you can always try, but I guess they will not be able to disclose any numbers so in depth. So I just summarize our discussion, right? So first, I think, and still my most likely quote, Jurgen, is don't copy paste your budget, right? So I will try to not do that. I think it's a really interesting aspect that every year starts from scratch. So starting from zero and then looking at the past and trying to figure out what's going on is actually the way how you should do it. So start from scratch and taking the others as input. Don't take the copy and go forward. I really like this. And then also we talked about long-term and short-term, right? Brand versus performance, kind of balancing that out. Also trying crazy things like tripling the budget. For me, that's an interesting aspect, right? So if you have room for these options, then try them out. That's what I would summarize that, right? Keep a balance between brand and performance, but try crazy things on tactical side, but also think long-term, I would summarize. And last but not least, obviously, we had the variant discussion, right? Where, okay, what do you do? Or do you have a range of a budget? Should not go too granular, but rather generic, and then have a range of a budget, or let's say have small, medium, large, or too risky, less risky, or however, crazy mode or insane mode, whatever you wanna call it, right? Is that summarizing our discussion more or less? I mean, I picked obviously the most important, interesting aspects, but I think that was, from my point of view, very interesting to hear that. And I will obviously try also in our budget to reflect these inputs. Now I see a couple of people are typing, so feel free to add your questions now, and we see them, and then we can pick them up. I see there is one question from Luke, which is how important are macroeconomic parameters like customer confidence, unemployment rate, GDPR forecast in your overall budget process? This goes into the direction of trends a little bit, right? I would check like in the overall like macroeconomic pattern. Don't know, maybe Hanspeter, do you want to say a word to that? What is
yeah, I mean, unemployment rate, macroeconomic facts like unemployment rates, for example, GDP forecast, I would assume it's rather impacting B2C business assessments. Because consumer confidence, of course, is definitely something which also apply in B2B. We translate that to the large scale consumer, and that definitely is being reflected, but not on the granularity of a Marcom budget. These are assessments which market intelligence is actually providing to the top level management. I'm pretty sure they have also very lengthy discussions forward and backward in these regards before the corporate targets are being set, respectively the corporate strategy also for the coming fiscal period is being set.
Yes. What about you, Leah? You talked about trends initially, right? That's probably parts of them at least are interesting.
Yeah, like Hanspeter just said, I think these kind of trends are more discussed on a level even higher up of the whole company goal on where do you want to go, how ambitious are you going to be. I think in marketing it's then, yeah, I mean at Carvolution we're very close, marketing and sales and company targets. It's not different locations are very far away from each other. But during COVID, of course, you try to understand how are people going to use mobility, how is home office going to develop, will that have a positive, a negative impact? But at the end, it was a year with a lot of guessing, and I think it's going to be another year with a lot of guessing, where you can just work with the different scenarios and try to write down all your reasons for each direction, and like this, try to do a good budget at the end.
Yeah, makes total sense. And Jurgen?
Yeah, it's of course, these points are important, especially for us, the consumer confidence. If consumers are fine with the quality, if beverages, and also from the all logistic part. But what we are doing is, and this is what we are really currently in that week, we are in a phase called shoulder view, and that means the first budget proposals are done. We have the first discussions with the management, and now you do these shoulder views with people who are not directly in the budget. For example, in the marketing, we are talking with our supervising agency, and they are coming up with such aspects and ask really questions which you have not respected. So it's of course, they say yes, it's really such points of playing a role.
Cool. So thanks, Luke, for your question. I hope that sheds some light from various angles on it. And we got a new question from Alan. What channel get how much percentage in your budget? And is that fixed? Can you say something about that? Or I don't know. Is it how secret is that?
Well, I can say something about that. It's not secret because it's also not fixed. So here we were just discussing that, the tactical channel budget alignment has to stay flexible if you want to adjust. It's not even adjustment to crisis situation. This is during a performance marketing runtime across a full year. Eventually triggered by seasonalities, etc. You have shifting behaviors on the different channels, or also changing correlations between the KPIs on different channels. That's why you need to operate on a platform like Nexoya, for example, to be able to observe all that in one view, and that's defining how your percentage share on investment is across the tactical channels.
Yes. So you basically
avoiding the real answer now.
No, absolutely. And Jurgen, on your side, you probably have more fixed, let's say, booked spendings, right? Because you're
no, but honestly speaking, I cannot tell you which percentage is going to the restaurant and to the retailer and to the wholesaler, because I don't know it simply. But what I can tell you is when you say channels, is the B2B area and the B2C area, and here it's really the much biggest part is going to B2B. This is our traditional business, and the B2C is really a small thing, a strategic thing, growing, but still a small number.
Yes. And Leon, your side? Tripling everything.
No, at least not every month.
Not every month.
Each channel gets the budget it deserves, kind of according to its performance and the developments we see there. So I think every business or everybody listening here should try to understand their channels and then make a good split, and not copy paste the other people's percentage on their channels.
Sounds reasonable. Although it's a starting point, right? Technically, but yes.
Maybe we can amend that, average shares across in regards of investments across tactical channels. You can find on the internet. Just Google it, and you get some numbers. But I can guarantee that the performance in the end we'll get out of it will not justify or over justify the return on investment, depending on how your choice is there. So it is really, as Leah say, it's the experience everybody need to collect by themselves.
Yes. And at the end, 70% of the performance is anyhow creative, right? So we shall not forget that. Cool. So we slowly come to an end. I see there are no more questions in right now. There were some people typing. If you still want to finish your typing, you should finish it now. Otherwise, I would say thanks a lot. Thanks a lot for everybody attending here. And thanks a lot for the speakers, obviously. And it was great to have you here. It was a very interesting discussion. I really liked the discussion. And I hope you also liked to hear what you heard. I will share the links to all the websites which were mentioned, Just Drinks, Carvolution, and maybe you have a Kardex e-commerce hidden shop, Hanspeter, when someone wants to order a logistics center. So we can also publish that here.
Right.
And we share that with the webinar participants. And yes, any last comment, you guys?
Of course, don't forget the Feldschlösschen beer when you stop working today.
Yes, it's 4 p.m. That's early enough, right? Okay, then secret question, Jurgen. Do you have a Feldschlösschen tab in your lunch canteen?
Of course, yeah.
Very good. No, I just need to know that. That's important. Okay, then wonderful. Thanks a lot. Thanks for participating, and have a wonderful evening or a wonderful day for the people who joined from overseas. And see you next time in our next webinars, which will be published soon. Thank you very much, and have a successful budget planning 2022. Bye, guys. Bye-bye.
Thank you.
Yep. Bye.
Bye.